Bro, let me tell you this in a gentle but piercing way. How many times have you found yourself in the situation where the kinder you are, the colder she becomes, the more you try to show your feelings, the further she pulls away? It sounds illogical, but it's the truth that so many men go through. You give everything your attention, your time, your compliments, your initiative, and in return, indifference, dry texts, or even the feeling that you're bothering her. And at the moment you ask yourself why, something is silently happening that you haven't noticed yet. In modern psychology, there's a concept called overgiving. It means you give more than necessary. Give before the other person has truly earned it, and give so much that there's no space left for them to give back. When you give too much, you unintentionally distort the value balance between the two of you, not because you're less valuable, but because the way you act makes her feel like you're standing below her, and that feeling is what shapes behavior. When you constantly express, "I'm willing to do anything to keep you," the signal her brain actually receives is, "You're asking to be accepted," and when someone feels they're being excessively pursued, their natural reflex is to pull back. That's a self-protection instinct, not cruelty. Bro, this isn't your fault. You're simply using the wrong strategy. Men often think being nice, being appreciated. But in relationship psychology, it's being nice in the right way, in the right amount, at the right time that creates real attraction. When you give without leaving any space for yourself, you turn kindness into lack of control. When you try to prove you're worthy, you're actually signaling that you don't believe you're good enough. And women always respond to the energy you radiate, not the effort you put in. So bro, it's not that you're too nice. It's that you're nice in the wrong way. We'll fix that starting from the next part. Bro, if the previous part made you realize you've been nice in the wrong way, then this is the moment to understand something deeper. Why does that reduce your attractiveness? And why are there men who hardly try at all, yet women naturally want to be around them? The difference lies in the mechanism of natural attraction, something that doesn't need words or tricks, yet controls most emotions in a relationship. And bro, once you understand this mechanism, everything becomes clear. In modern psychology, they discovered that people, not just women, respond strongly to perceived value, not unconditional sacrifice. It sounds simple, but its weight is enormous, because what determines attraction is not how good you are, but what energy you project through your actions. A confident person, someone who doesn't talk much about themselves, but the way they stand, the way they look, the way they respond, all emit a sense of internal safety. That's the kind of energy that makes others feel comfortable, trusting, and drawn in. Meanwhile, someone who always tries to please, always tries to prove themselves, always fears losing someone, radiates unstable energy. It's like they're constantly sending the message, "Please don't leave me." And bro, that energy doesn't create attraction, it creates pressure. Women sense this extremely fast. Research on nonverbal cues shows they only need a few seconds to identify who needs acceptance and who has self-value. A person with self-value is not someone perfect. They're simply someone who doesn't rely on external validation to feel worthy. That's why they're more attractive. They don't chase. They don't ask for permission to be loved. They don't beg for recognition. They enter a relationship with the mindset, if we're compatible, we walk together. If not, I'm still good. In life, you'll clearly see two types of men. One is the man who has chosen the one women naturally want to be with. The other is the man who asks to be chosen, the one who tries to prove he deserves a chance. Just hearing those two phrases, you can already feel the difference, right bro? The man who is chosen isn't chosen because he's more handsome, richer, or better spoken. He's chosen because he radiates the energy, "I was already complete before you came." Meanwhile, the man who asks to be chosen radiates a kind of energy that makes women create distance. Not because he's bad, but because he makes the other person feel emotionally unsafe. And bro, here's something to remember. True attraction doesn't come from what you do for her. It comes from the image of yourself in your own mind. The more you believe in your own value, the more she perceives it. And from here, we move to the next part, how to give correctly. Hold correctly so you can keep your natural attraction without turning kindness into a transaction. Bro, when you understand that attraction comes from self-value, you'll realize something extremely important. It's not that you need to demand respect, it's that you must behave like a man who respects himself. and the clearest way to show that is boundaries. So this part flows naturally from the previous one, because after knowing why people with self-value are more attractive, the next question will always be, so how do I express that value without forcing it? The answer lies in two simple but powerful words, knowing when to give and when to hold. It's not that you're not allowed to be sweet. It's not that you have to be cold, distant, or act hard to get. Men do not need to turn themselves into emotionless robots to be attractive. No, what makes you attractive is not coldness, but selectiveness. You give when you want to give. You hold when you need to hold. You never do anything that crosses your own limits just to buy attention. That selective giving is what makes the other person feel that you're in control of your life, not being led by your emotions. In relationship psychology, 2024-2025, there are two concepts that are mentioned constantly: healthy boundaries and secure attachment. Healthy boundaries are not walls. They are knowing what you accept, what you don't accept, and communicating that calmly instead of aggressively. This is what maintains long-term attraction, because women respect a man who knows what he wants and doesn't get sucked into emotional drama. Secure attachment is what makes women feel safe around you. It's when you don't overreact, don't control, don't cling, but also don't disappear or avoid. You stand firm, you're stable. You're mature enough to connect without losing yourself in the relationship. Bro, women don't leave because you're not good enough. They leave when they don't feel stable beside you. When you have boundaries, you create that stability. When you know how to hold, you make your presence valuable. When you know how to give at the right time, you make your kindness worth appreciating. And remember this, bro. Boundaries are not rigidity, not control, not domination. They're simply clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you accept and don't accept. Clarity about how you want to be treated. And that clarity is something women value deeply because it sends the signal, I have value, and I know it. Hold on to this, bro, because in the next part we're going to dive into the core of modern masculine attraction, holding your frame but in a mature and realistic way. When you understand that boundaries are the foundation of stability in a relationship, the next step naturally leads you to a bigger concept, something that decides how you show up in the eyes of others, especially women. And this is where we talk about frame. If boundaries are the fence, then frame is the house inside. It's the core that makes you who you are. And bro, without frame, all your efforts, your confidence, your kindness, your attractiveness won't hold. So what is frame in the modern sense? Forget alpha, forget beta. Those terms make everything extreme and distorted. In today's social science, frame is understood simply like this. Frame, your perception, please, your standards, please, your direction in life. It's the worldview you believe in, the way you see yourself, and the path you choose to walk. It's not loud, not showy, not forceful. It's something people feel, not something you try to prove. When a man has a strong frame, he's not easily swayed by someone else's emotions. It's not that he's emotionless, it's that he has a strong internal axis that keeps him centered even when things around him shake. Women sense this very quickly. A small argument, a provoking comment, a tense moment if you lose your calm, lose direction, lose self-control, your frame collapses. And when your frame collapses, your attraction collapses with it. Bro. In contrast, a man who holds his frame responds differently. He listens, he understands, but he doesn't get pulled into someone else's emotional spiral. He doesn't raise his voice just because the other person is tense. He doesn't change his stance out of fear of upsetting someone. He doesn't blindly give in just to keep the peace. He stays calm, clear, and intentional about everything he does. Bro, holding your frame is not about always winning, it's not about being right, it's not about dominating others. Holding your frame means not losing yourself, even when you love someone deeply. It's about standing firm in your values. It's about not letting someone else's emotions control you. It's about always knowing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and where you want to go. A man with a strong frame creates a feeling of safety, maturity, and reliability. Not because he's perfect, but because he's consistent. And bro, once you understand frame, you'll see why it's the center of all lasting masculine attraction. Hold on to this, because in the next part we're diving into the specific type of energy women respond to the strongest leadership energy, gentle but firm guidance, not forceful, yet making others naturally want to follow your lead. When you understand that frame is the core that keeps you steady, something naturally emerges from a man with a strong frame leadership energy. And this is something women sense extremely fast, sometimes even before they notice your appearance or your words. We transition smoothly into the next part because frame is the foundation, and leadership energy is how you show that foundation in real life. If frame is the spine, then leadership energy is the way you walk. So what is leadership in relationships, bro? First, we must make one thing clear. Leading is not controlling. Many men confuse this, and because they misunderstand, they become rigid, demanding, or even toxic, while true leadership is gentle, natural, and makes others want to go with you, not feel forced. Leadership energy is the combination of three traits: initiative, calmness, and clear direction. Initiative doesn't mean taking over everything, but knowing how to make choices, set the pace, and create a direction when the other person is unsure. Calmness is when you don't let emotions dictate decisions, especially in tense moments. Clear direction means you know what you want, and you don't hide it just because you're afraid someone won't like it. Women respond very well to this kind of energy because it creates a sense of safety, not material safety, but psychological safety. A man who knows what he wants is not easily swayed. He's not always right, but he always has a reason for every step he takes. Meanwhile, a man who tries to please everyone often makes women feel uneasy because he can change himself just to fit whoever he's talking to. He loses direction just to avoid conflict. That is the energy of clinging, not leading. Real-life situations show it clearly. Take a simple date, for example. A man with leadership energy will say, "Tonight I want to try that new sushi place. If you're craving something else, let me know." The sentence is light, but you can feel it. There's a suggestion, there's initiative, and there's space for her input. Meanwhile, a man who lacks leadership will ask, "Where do you want to go? What do you want to eat?" You decide. It sounds like he's being considerate, but in reality, he's avoiding responsibility for leading. Or take a small argument. A man with leadership will say, "I understand you're upset. Let's take a few minutes, then continue talking. I want us to resolve this, not drag it out. Calm, solution-focused, not running away." A man without leadership will either disappear or react based on her emotions, both destroy the sense of safety. Bro, light leadership isn't about forcing someone to follow you. It's about walking with such clarity that others naturally want to walk with you. And when you have leadership energy, you don't need to act alpha. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to overcompensate. You just need to show up the right way. And in the next part, we move to one of the most defining elements of a mature man's lasting attraction, the power to walk away, but in its mature, grounded, and non-threatening form. When you understand that leadership energy is how you guide gently yet firmly, a natural question appears: what allows a man to stay calm, clear, and steady like that? The answer lies in a principle that nearly every healthy relationship is built on: the power to walk away. Not to intimidate, not to play mind games, but to protect yourself and preserve your value from dissolving into someone else's emotions. In the modern lens, the power to walk away is no longer seen as stubbornness or arrogance. It's simply a sign of self-worth strong enough that you don't depend on anyone. When you know you're still fine, even if this relationship doesn't continue, you behave differently, slower, more conscious, and more respectful toward yourself. And it's this state of inner fullness that makes women feel you have depth and inner strength, not desperation, or the need to cling at all costs. This is the pillar of lasting attraction, freedom plus self-governance. When you're not afraid of losing someone, you don't need to control them. When you don't need to control them, you don't create pressure. And without pressure, emotions have room to grow naturally. On the other hand, when you fear losing someone, you start acting from a place of lack. You overcompensate. You stay silent when you should speak. You agree when your heart doesn't want to. You try to please in exchange for a little emotional security, and those very actions make you lose value in her eyes, not because you're wrong, but because you're betraying yourself. One thing you must remember, bro. Women don't respect a man who's afraid of losing them. They respect a man who isn't afraid of losing himself. When you have the power to walk away, you don't use it as a weapon. You use it as a reminder that you have a choice. You have an exit. You're not staying because you need to. You're staying because you want to, and she can feel that. Sometimes your greatest strength isn't trying to keep someone from leaving, but being mature enough to walk away when you're no longer respected. That's not coldness, that's self-respect. And bro, once you understand this principle, you'll see why it directly connects to the next part, the most important part of building lasting attraction, elevating your self-value. Because the power to walk away is only real when you're a man of genuine value, from the inside out. When you understand that the power to walk away is the expression of a man who is full from within, you'll see a very natural truth to truly have that power. You must be a man of real value, not performed value, not forced confidence, not a version built from pretending. And this is why the final part connects seamlessly with everything before, because everything we've talked about, boundaries, frame, leadership, autonomy, are all the results of becoming a stronger version of yourself, not trying to project it, but radiating it. So, how do you become a naturally attractive man? Modern psychology and personal development research from 2024-2025 point to a crucial foundational model, the 3 pillars of self-improvement. These 3 pillars aren't dry theory. They are the foundation that shapes your presence, your energy, and your attractiveness in real life, not just in love, but in work, communication, and every social interaction. Pillar 1, mental. This is the root of everything. A man who can manage his emotions, understand his triggers, and observe himself before reacting will always be more attractive than someone who reacts purely by instinct. Self-awareness is what researchers call a meta-skill, the skill that creates all other skills. When you understand who you are, you cling less, you fear less, and your emotional stability increases. And bro, women feel that stability very clearly. Pillar 2, physical. Not to show off your body, not to become a fitness model, but so you can feel strength, vitality, and confidence within your own body. A man who moves regularly, sleeps well, and eats properly radiates a very different energy, grounded, calm, and naturally attractive. New research shows that physical confidence directly affects how you communicate and set boundaries. Bro, taking care of your body isn't vanity, it's self-respect. Pillar 3, social communication, boundaries, charisma. This is the final pillar, but it's what reflects you to the world. From the way you speak, the way you look at someone, the way you respond, to how you set boundaries gently but firmly, all of it forms your presence, the way people perceive you. Charisma isn't something you're born with. It comes from understanding yourself, understanding others, and not letting fear dictate your interactions. A man with good social skills isn't someone who talks a lot, but someone who makes others feel comfortable and respect him. When these 3 pillars rise, you enter a stage many bros don't expect. You don't need to act alpha anymore. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to show off. You don't need to force it. Attraction comes from you naturally, effortlessly, without calculation. You become the kind of man women want to be around because they feel better when they're near you. Not because you wear a mask, but because you are a stronger version of yourself. And bro, I want to end this part with a simple but brutally honest message. Build yourself first. Everything in love will naturally fall into place. Because when you're strong from within, you don't have to chase anyone. The right person will move toward you. The wrong person will walk away. And you will remain standing calm, confident, and full of value.